And he left a legacy that, listen, 200 years from now, people are still going to be talking about him. And his music is still going to resonate and be relevant then.
One person with a vision, that's all it takes. My guest today is Melba Pearson. She's a powerhouse in civil rights and criminal law. She's a former Miami-Dade prosecutor who handled some of the toughest homicide cases. She's a natural-born leader, a leader who helped restore voting rights for more than 1 million Floridians. And now she's a national voice on justice reform. You've seen her work everywhere, the New York Times and beyond. She's also known as the resident legal diva.
It's getting out of that ego and being self-centered and looking at the broader picture. What are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your family?
This episode isn't just about law and politics. It's about how leaders like yourself can lead using your voices, your values, and your vision on how to create real change. Melba shows us how to lead with courage, how to stand firm in the face of division, and how to leave behind a legacy rooted in love and community. This is the YouPotential podcast, where we explore the intersection of meaning and money for leaders. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, please subscribe and leave us a comment, review. We really appreciate it, because the world needs more great leaders like yourself.
Melba, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you. I was just briefly saying that I get to talk to such a wide-ranging guest, and I can just tell by the way you hold yourself that it's going to be a fun conversation.
I hope so.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Not to set up with expectations.
Right?
I thought I would start with something that I heard from you, but it seems tragic. I heard you say that your clubbing days are over, and you have to resort to videos online and your children. Is this true?
Yes, it is. I mean, I think we have all these spaces in life that you enjoy and you enjoy to the max, right? But you also have to understand when a new chapter is opened.
Yeah.
And embrace that chapter too, and it's fine. So, while I don't have any biological children, I love to watch the young people enjoy that phase of their life, because I remember how much fun I had. So watching, sometimes life can be really stressful, and we have to find things to lift us up, right? And so I'll go down the little rabbit hole on TikTok or Instagram and watch the kids with the newest dances, and I'm like, okay, my hips could never anymore, my knees could never anymore. But I remember those days when I was able to do it. Now I can do other things, right? And there are things I couldn't do back then that I could do now, and vice versa. But again, it's just embracing every chapter of life as it comes and enjoying it to your full potential.
Yeah, nice. Your full potential on the YouPotential podcast.
How about that?
I did. That was good. You mentioned before we were talking that you're half Jamaican, and music is not just strictly a Jamaican thing. It's universal across all cultures. But you know what? Mr. Bob Marley has done a great job of, I would think, my wife and I spent a year traveling around the entire world.
Nice.
We circumferenced it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the Beatles. It wasn't big rock. It wasn't Elvis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was Bob Marley. It didn't matter what country we were in, any part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was Bob Marley. I'm wondering if you've ever thought about why his music is so resonant amongst everyone in the world. Really and truly in the world.
Well, it's ironic that you bring that up, because this past weekend, my husband and I and my stepdaughter were in Jamaica celebrating our family reunion.
Mm.
And so it was the first time my stepdaughter had been to Jamaica. So, of course, we took her to the Bob Marley Museum. Yeah. And so I encourage everyone, if you get the opportunity to go to Jamaica, specifically Kingston, you go there, because again, it talks a lot about his whole story and his motivation, but it's because he's so real. That's what resonates. And when he's talking about the struggles of basically paying the bills and how to find peace within yourself, with being one with nature, which is part of his belief system as a Rastafarian, Rastas for short, but it's, a lot of people are like, oh, Rastas, they have dreadlocks and they smoke weed. That's all it is, right? And that's what it is, a lot of people. But it's so much more than that. And he was really introducing the world to, listen, yeah, you smoke the ganja, but it's for meditation, to get yourself closer to God, not just because I want to get high and party. It's how do I get to a higher level of myself? How do I sit and listen and think and create and being in a space that I can not only improve my life, but the lives of others?
Melba, like... I hope Jory is listening to this, because we just had this gentleman, Dr. John Verhage, come on here. His life's work is around researching the depth and crux of meaning in life. And he talks about we're on a meaning crisis right now. For sure. That there used to be the worlds where we had our first world, where people operated often under self-deception. We were distracted by things that were very much ego-driven. And then we had, whether it was religion or Buddhist or Stoicism, these ways to transcend us into the second world. What he talks about, you coexist with nature. And it was very like mind-twisting to hear, but I literally got goosebumps because the way you described Bob Marley was like a summary of our conversation, and how you said he was with nature. And John Verhage talks about how like we coexist ourself and nature to create this higher order to look at. And he talks about often we're so self-centered. We look at the overall world. And anyhow, that's what you said about Bob Marley.
And to piggyback on that, another aspect, which is a big part of, of being a Rasta and all of that, is they always say I and I. And if you listen to his songs, you'd be like, I this. And it's not only because he's talking about himself. It's not about that. It's about, I see myself in you.
Oh.
So I and I. You know what I mean? So it's getting out of that ego and being self-centered and looking at the broader picture. What are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your family? And most importantly, what kind of legacy are you leaving behind? Because he could never have imagined the legacy that he left. He passed away, in the mid-'80s?
He was young too, right?
Yeah, he was like 36 years old. He passed from cancer. And he was literally, he brought peace when there was a huge political unrest in Kingston. He had gotten shot, and he could have been like, you know what? I got shot. Forget this. I'm just going to heal. No, because he realized it was a political thing, and people thought he was siding with one over the other, and that's why he got shot. Well, what did he do? He decided to put on a concert, and he brought both the opposite political leaders, brought them on stage. This is an iconic picture. And he grabbed both their hands and put it together. And literally, it's like the stadium just exploded and neither one knew that this was going to happen. So he was like, we're going to have peace. And at that time, he already had cancer and he was already on a decline. But he knew that between being shot and everything else, he knew that this was a pivotal moment, not, for his country, but also for the world. So it's that, you know what I mean? Like, he was doing all of these things just organically and naturally. And he left a legacy that, listen, 200 years from now, people are still going to be talking about him. And his music is still going to resonate and be relevant then.
Yeah. It is. I hope you can listen to this interview we just had with John, because it was very high level, and you just now bringing it down to I would say a relative understanding most people have. But he talked about how right now we have this called the right side and the left side, such polar opposite views that they're stuck in their ways of thinking, and it's actually causing more harm.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
What happened down there? And what John was saying, we're calling for this transcendent, and he called it agape. It's this Christianity term that's beyond love.
Yep.
And it seems like he was trying to do that with amongst these two political divides, not telling them. And so did the concert go well?
It went amazingly. It was a sold out concert.
And they danced together?
Well, I wouldn't say that they did all that. They were like, all right, I'll hold your hand because I've been forced to. But it did quell the political violence at that time. And that ended up being a very pivotal moment in Jamaican political history. that one concert,
Wow.
that one act.
Is there footage of this?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's on YouTube. There's iconic posters that you can, get, and it's framed. I mean, it's a huge, huge deal, especially in Jamaican history, but again, worldwide, that an artist could use their platform to bring peace in this manner.
Yeah.
One man with a vision. That's all it takes. One person with a vision is all it takes.
I am having like an incomplete full circle. I feel like we actually have to butt up John's episode in this one, because as we were ending, I'm like, you just like pretzeled my mind, but it makes sense for John. I'm like,
right.
Is it possible? Are we too far gone? And he didn't say this, but it's his work. He's like, I'm trying to do it. Mm-hmm. And he was basically saying to me, it just takes one man. Exactly what you just said here. And we see it through Bob Marley and others.
Yes, and others. And, you don't have to be this, I'm wealthy, I've got power, I've got 2 million followers on TikTok or whatever. Each of us in our own way can do something positive every day to change the world. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to go out today but just being your authentic self, showing up, giving your gifts and your expertise to the world. I mean, if you're an amazing gardener, listen, I kill anything I touch, so that's not me, right? But I see, other people who are, teaching everyone how to maintain their plants and exhibiting the joy that brings them. Mm-hmm. So that can inspire someone else. Hey, listen, I need more balance and such in my life. Let me get into doing a little bit of gardening and having a few plants, right? And what do plants do? They end up helping our environment. They give us more oxygen. So there's all these little things that change the world because, okay, now you're more at peace. Yeah. And if you're more at peace, your household's more at peace. If your household is more at peace, you make different decisions than when you're constantly under stress, when you're worried and angry and all of that. That's how you're going to show up in your life. So, little things. Mm-hmm.
Big impact.
Yeah, little things, big impact. You don't have to be like, I have to go run for political office, which... been there, done that, mixed feelings. But, it doesn't have to be on such a grand scale. Yeah. Just basic little things can change the world.
Thank you for that. When we talk to Melba here, I can feel this foundational roots that come from Jamaica as this external view, like not just myself. So I'm curious... when you're not in the courtroom, when microphones are off, who is Melba from her values, those foundational values, whether they came from your Jamaican roots or elsewhere?
Who am I? Well, so...
That's a light question.
No, very light, right? So again, I'm half Jamaican, I'm Trinidadian, born in the U.S. Who am I? I am a wife. I'm a stepmom. I'm an auntie. I'm an advocate. I'm an activist. I'm good trouble. as the late Congressman John Lewis would say.
About you?
But he's like, make sure, one of his quotes was always, make sure to always be in good trouble. Make good trouble.
Oh, make good trouble.
Make good trouble.
Okay.
So this was from his work in the civil rights movement, the first civil rights movement in the 1960s in the U.S., all the way until his passing in recent years. He always talked about making good trouble, standing up for what's right, for what's righteous, So for me, making good trouble is something that's very core to me because I think about, my parents came to the U.S. for a new life, new opportunities. They wanted more opportunities for me. I think about the people from the first civil rights movement who marched, who got beaten, who got murdered in order for me to even have the right to sit in the same classroom as people who look differently from me. Right? So my father always told me growing up, which is a very common, refrain, that he who has been given much, much is expected. And so I've been given a lot in terms of, and not money, not what like that, but I have been given opportunities. Mm-hmm. I have been poured into by people that loved me or saw my potential, supported me. And so I take that very seriously. I feel the weight of my ancestors on my back. And I know they have my back. but I in turn cannot disappoint them.
That's right.
So the way I do that is by trying to do something every day to make the world a better place, to educate. Because my jam is, listen, I love to get on and have podcasts and talk with people and things like that, and break things down to something basic. Taking a concept that may seem complicated, the American political system. How do I vote? What should I? Okay, listen, it's as simple as this. Make sure you get registered. Look at reputable websites. Make your decision. Think about it. What are your values? What's most aligned? And taking these things that seem so amorphous and out there and breaking it down for people. That's my gift. And so if I hold that gift back, now I'm being dishonest to the ancestors.
Right.
Now I'm being dishonest to the fact that I've been given so much and I've done nothing with my privilege in this instance. So, yeah.
We were talking with... John has implanted me.
Right.
Talked about this idea of like, whether it's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey or whatever. You go through this journey. In your case, you were poured into this. You were given these gifts by your ancestors. Mm-hmm. But he talks about how, like in the Greek god days, is if you took that for granted, mm-hmm. the gods are crushed down on you. And I hear that what you're saying. You have this responsibility, this obligation to honor your ancestors, to make good trouble.
Make good trouble.
I think it's really interesting to make good trouble, because I think a lot of people are making trouble.
That part.
How do we make sure that we're making good trouble?
We make sure that we're making good trouble, number one, kind of like doctors, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. Mm-hmm. If you're out here trying to harm people, you already know you're in the wrong kind of trouble.
Yeah.
But good trouble means you're advocating for people who may not necessarily have a voice, may feel marginalized, hopeless, helpless, and you're fighting for them. Mm-hmm. You're fighting for something that even though you may have it, this next person doesn't. Mm-hmm. So that's what making good trouble is. And sometimes good trouble means you're protesting in the street. Sometimes good trouble means you're getting arrested for protesting, right? Again, civil disobedience is a choice. That's not for everyone, but it is one tool that can be used to make good trouble. Mm-hmm. Another way of making good trouble could be writing your representative or your member of parliament, whatever the case may be, because you have a concern about a particular law that's about to be passed. And you're like, listen, this is going to harm my community. That's making good trouble, mm-hmm. right? Like, so it doesn't have to be like, oh, I got to be out there, getting arrested or whatever the case may be. It can be something as simple, small actions, mm-hmm. small actions.
Small actions, but it seems they add up over time.
Right.
You've described yourself in many different ways, but a prosecutor, I've heard online, I've been reading, a leader, advocate, educator. How have all those intersecting identities helped shape your purpose, this legacy that your ancestors have poured into you?
How is it shaped? It's interesting because it sort of was like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Mm-hmm. And so I grew into these things. I didn't just wake up one day like, hey, it started off as, okay, I'm going to go to law school because as the daughter of Caribbean folks, you either are going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or like an engineer. There was no, I'm going to go into PR, I'm going to go into marketing. No. You get an advanced degree. No. Shaky because, it's math and maybe, but there are certain respectable things that, good Caribbean girl does, So I became a lawyer. And, one thing that was always resonating in the back of my head is how my father talked about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and how he had great lawyers that helped, get him and others out of jail when they were making good trouble in the first civil rights movement. And so I was understanding in the back of my head that attorneys could be very critical to helping and to the movement in general. So then, I go to law school. I ended up getting an offer I was in New York at the time. I got an offer to move to Miami and become a prosecutor and, took the bar exam. And unfortunately, I didn't pass. And it took me on a different path where I went into events and PR.
You got it?
I did. And my mother was so horrified, but may she rest in peace. She was on her knees praying to Jesus every night that I would see the light and come back to the fold. But, I had to go on that path because I had to have certain experiences. And all those experiences came full circle later on when I finally passed the bar, became a prosecutor, served for 16 years, tried homicide cases, tried domestic violence cases, worked with survivors who had gone through hell and back, next of kin who literally, I mean, I had trials where I would be literally holding the mom as she's weeping in my arms. Those kind of experiences. I had to have those experiences in the 5 years in the event wilderness, right? Because I interacted with people who did drugs. I interacted with people who, partied all night long or came from different backgrounds than I had. It was because, in school is a more controlled environment.
Very much.
But when you're in this industry, you meeting everybody from top to very bottom, okay? So, and even those who are considered the top were really the bottom, if you know what I mean, in terms of they had money and influence, Jeffrey Epstein, but they use that for harmful things. I had no concept of that world growing up. My parents shielded me from that. So by being in that industry, it opened my eyes so that when I became a prosecutor, I understood how easily one night of fun could turn into a life sentence in prison. And if I didn't have that understanding, I don't think I would have had as much empathy and compassion that I brought to the work, right? And so that helped frame me. But then also doing a lot of community work then became part of my work as a prosecutor. And that gave me a whole different viewpoint in interacting with, let's say, women who were in domestic violence relationships and them staying because it was quite simple as the man paid my electric bill. And I had no other way to pay my bills, so what are my options? So again, that also opened my eyes in another way. So I'm like, okay. So I took all of that and started to advocate. And then I was given and blessed with the opportunity to serve as president of the National Black Prosecutors Association. That was during the time of President Obama's administration, where there was a lot of talk about reform and changing things. And so again, I ended up in rooms that I never thought I'd be in. Literally, I was in the White House. I was just like, oh my God.
The ancestors are patting you on the back.
Listen, I'm like, how is this little girl from New Rochelle, New York, sitting in the most powerful room on this planet in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And so being in those environments and again, hearing more stories, I kept learning and soaking and I kept evolving. And then my role kept evolving. And from there, I ended up doing civil rights work as being deputy director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Florida, which is basically a civil rights organization that files lawsuits and such on behalf of groups that have been marginalized, whether it be LGBTQ community, whether it be immigrants, people that are in custody, whatever the case may be. And so, again, a whole other education popped up. And then from there, that passion and then, leading protests, especially during the first time our current person as occupying the White House was elected, leading those protests, having the bullhorn, leading the chants, doing the marches and all of that, again, whole different education.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take each of these experiences and just keep building on it. And that's what I did. So I think that's how I am. I'm in this place now where I'm doing work around transparency. I'm still doing civil rights work and helping and doing victims' rights work. But my main thing is doing legal commentary and doing, shows like this where, again, breaking down things for people so that they feel more empowered in their own life to make decisions. Mm-hmm. Or if, heaven forbid, their loved one is in an entanglement in the criminal justice system, where to go to for answers, how to navigate that, and know that you're not alone. So,
you sound like a fighter.
I am. Ask my husband. See, I don't fight with him though. I don't fight with him, but he knows. Like if I get when I'm like believe in something, I stand 10 toes down.
Yeah.
And good luck trying to move me. If I know I'm on the right side of things, and I have the receipts to prove I'm on the right side of things. If I don't know, then I am like, listen, I don't know. Or if I discover I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. And I think that's very important because people respect you more and it's more authentic rather than, oh, yeah, I always knew everything.
No, but to be convicted or not convicted in court, convicted,
have
conviction of an idea is to stand up. And, this is exactly what you've been doing. And I could see your career trajectory has just, call it thrived or it fit you to get into the right places where you're protecting so many different individuals, advocating for, like you said, the marginalized communities. I'm curious, amongst all your roles, you've seen insights in the White House. How the influence of power and control seems to be a root issue for many of these communities, individuals that you're advocating for. What's your take on the level of desire that we have for power and control and the wake of impact that it has on many communities and individuals?
Well, it's more the lack of power and the lack of control
of the individuals.
Right, correct.
I mean the powers that be who was seeking from their lens.
Right. So let me explore from two different things, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So when you look at the marginalized communities, they feel a lack of power. Even though they may have it, they may not be aware of the level of power that they have. And they feel that they don't have control over their destiny, over their communities, over what their future should look like. Now, the goal would be for those people to, through voting, through other means, exert their power and control and let those who have the power and control because they've been elected to office or appointed know that, listen, this course of action is not okay. These people are being hurt and we're holding you accountable for it. But because too few people do that in an organized fashion, and I'm not saying people don't vote, that's not, well, let me rephrase. There is an epidemic, especially in the U.S. I hope it's the same here in Canada, low voter turnout, right? You'll see elections where it's 30, 40, 50%. If it's a local municipal election, forget about it. 20, 30% of the electorate is making the decision for the rest, right? But I think that too few people realize that if you speak truth to power and you do so as a united front, as one voice, you can change the trajectory of what's going on. And power, I believe it was Frederick Douglass that said, power sees nothing without demand. And if we're not demanding those changes, nothing's going to change. And so those who have power and control, sadly, are wielding it in manners that are harmful to many communities, or they feel helpless because they may be outnumbered. Their party may be in the minority. So all they can do is jump up and down and make noise, which is good. But in the long term, how does that shift the narrative? How does that shift legislation? And also you have people that go into these positions. And this is not to hate on anyone that came from means. It is what it is. Or, you worked hard and you made a multi-million-dollar company. That's awesome. Happy for you, whatever. But a lot of times, those are the people who end up in positions of power and control. And they don't know the daily struggles. They can't tell you the price of eggs. They can't tell you, is there a chicken shortage or not, or what's been going on with the price of beef, right? They can't tell you what a meal is, how much a meal is, going through McDonald's or a cup of coffee at Tim Hortons. They don't know that. And so they're making decisions accordingly. And it's not helping the people who are dealing with these issues on a day-to-day basis. So that's how you see the power and control get wielded in ways that are harmful. Because some of it is ignorance, some of it's deliberate ignorance. Because if you just went and asked somebody, I'm sure they could tell you what's happening. But that's why, to me, it's so important for people from the grassroots to be in those positions of power. Like, for instance, how do you have someone who's in the legislature making laws around education who's never gone to a public school, who's only gone to private or boarding schools? When you have teachers who would be supremely qualified to weigh in on these things, but they don't get the opportunity because they can't raise, $500,000 or $1 million for a campaign, right? Like, they can't not work for because in the United States, depending on where you are in the country, I live in Florida, which is a whole other tragedy, but we'll talk about that another point in time. But In our Florida legislature, it's 3 months straight. And then the rest of the year, you're off. So what job is going to let you take off for 3 months, right, while you go to the legislature? You can't, right? So that excludes a whole swath.
Whole different perspective is excluded.
Yes, exactly.
So you talk about this grassroots getting into these positions of power that, we use respectively. You mentioned earlier, I believe you just touched on it. You ran for Miami-Dade?
Yes, Miami-Dade State Attorney, yes.
Throughout that journey, that process, that whole chapter of your life, what did you really learn about your voice, your values, and perhaps even limits?
Woo! I laugh because okay, so first off, I ran for Miami-Dade County State Attorney. So Miami-Dade, everybody knows Miami. The broader county that Miami sits in is Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
And now what you, I guess, would call your crown prosecutor, that's what a state's attorney is. So I was running to be the top prosecutor for my county. And this was the office I served in for 16 years. So, I knew the good, the bad, and the very, very ugly. I knew where it was laying. And, I thought that I had some ideas of how to change things. And the person I was running against, the incumbent, we had a good relationship up until then.
Seems like there's a story there.
Yeah. I mean, I did call her before I filed my papers to let her know I was running against her because I wanted her to hear it from me, not on the street. And the conversation went about as well as you thought it would. But, at the end of the day, I thought that I could bring a very different perspective. And I thought that, we don't have term limits for prosecutors at least in my particular state. Some states do, but most states don't. So, you get in office for 28, 30 years. Life has evolved just a little bit in that time, right? And so I think it's healthy to have that change. Well, first thing that I learned, my father always had a saying, another old Jamaican saying, because there's lots of them, friends will bring you, but they don't bring you back. And so a lot of people made promises when they heard I was getting into the race or encouraging me to run against her. And the minute I was in, poof, they disappeared. So it ended up being me, my very small team, because again, as I'm very open about, I don't come from means. I'm daughter of immigrants. Everything I have, I earned, blood, sweat, and tears. And so when it comes to fundraising, and because fundraising is it in U.S. politics, period, end of story. Anybody tells you otherwise is lying to you. It is about the dollar and how much money you can raise.
You didn't have the tech billionaires in your back pocket?
Nope. Hey, Melinda Gates, hey, where you are, right? Like, I could use some help, but it's not too late. Give me a call. But seriously, there were no billionaires or millionaires to the rescue. Nobody was pouring money into my race or anything like that. So it was me realizing, and I knew from the beginning I was never going to be able to raise more money than her, but I knew I could outwork her. And by outworking, it meant hitting the streets, going to the communities that didn't even know what a prosecutor did, didn't know the impact it had in their lives, never saw a political candidate come to their area, right? I mean, I think about one very poignant interaction where I had made outreach to the Miccosukee indigenous community. And they were like, oh, you want to speak to us? I'm like, yes. I mean, you vote, so I want you to at least, hear what I have to say, and know that you have a decision to make at election day, whatever. And they said to me, "This is the first time a political candidate has ever come to speak to us." And this is a tribe. I mean, it's not a tiny tribe. Mm-hmm. And they have polling stations, on their land. So it's not like, and to me, that was so basic. I'm like, who are the communities? What are my constituents? Let me talk to all of them, right? And so realizing the neglect in so many different pockets. And when you're neglected that way, again, you're not connected to the system. And you have to understand how a particular political office impacts your day-to-day. Because if you don't know, first of all, why are you going to bother to vote?
Yeah.
And number two, why are you even going to be vested? right? And things end up being done to you. And so what I really learned along the way is people just don't understand a lot about the process and are very disenchanted. And so I was finding my voice in terms of, again, that education piece about what does each of these offices do? Where are the limits? Who's the person that makes sure that the potholes are filled on your street? Yeah, that is your city council. Did you vote in that election? Oh, no? Okay. That would be why the potholes are still there, right? So things like that. So that was definitely a huge learning experience. Meeting, again, these different constituencies I'd never even interacted with before was a learning experience. Having people say to me, like, I'm not about politics, but I like literally, and I'm using slang because that's literally what people said to me. Like, I don't do politics, but I'm about you.
Oh,
I like what you got to say.
yeah.
I haven't voted. I've never voted before, but I'm going to vote for you. Right. And to me, that's the greatest honor.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I was not successful, I was the most successful out of any of her opponents. And I actually drew voters from both sides of the aisle. Granted, this was 2020 before we got really polarized, but even still, because I talked about so many different broad messages that I knew were of concern to so many people: transparency, police accountability, how we treat our juveniles. Should somebody remain in custody without a bond or a very high bond or bail and not be able to get out before trial just because they're poor, right? Things like that. When I'm breaking down those concepts, people are like, whoa. And to me, it's not brain surgery, but it's like, wow, nobody's even bothered to explain that to them. And so, again, despite not being successful, I took those lessons and applied it in everything I was doing moving forward. And some of the things that I came away with was, number one, I don't want to run for office ever again, because listen, I got to give the shout out to my husband, because he was the best campaign spouse in the world.
Yeah.
He would literally, because I would get up at 8 a.m., you start the fundraising calls all day. Then maybe around 5 o'clock, because now, of course, we're in the pandemic, I would do a bunch of Zoom meet and greets. And if it was real life, outside, like before, outside, it would have been events, shaking hands, kissing babies, the whole thing. He would literally chase me around the house to make sure I ate, because I would go the whole day without eating. Because when you're a candidate, that's the only thing you can focus on, unless maybe you're a billionaire and you're self-funding yourself. So, I learned the toll that it took on me physically, emotionally, the toll it took on my family. And I made the conclusion that it just wasn't worth it to do it again. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people encouraged me. I'm like, no, you know what? No, let me contribute in other ways. But I took that experience to be able to advise other grassroots candidates on how they can structure a campaign, how they can do this and be successful.
So these grassroots candidates sound like there's these barriers, like you just described. Ginormous. And, you give it a really good effort, exhausting everything you've got. You're not eating. And you make a determination that, I'm not going to do this again, but I can help provide insights to people who are running it. Do you end up seeing grassroots candidates get through so that, so the voices can change? Some, but again, it depends. Like local level, you'll see a little bit of movement. Yeah.
I can't say that on the broader state level that there's been as much movement. Now, I can see it in other states, because again, it all depends where you are. Because like I said, Florida, very special place. But New York, a lot in the Northeast, you'll see, But again, it depends what you're campaigning on. And, we're a huge mayoral race now in New York. And there's a big brouhaha because the candidate is more progressive and of that grassroots mindset. Now, granted, he does, come from money. He's not like that. But he has that mindset of a grassroots candidate. And it's scaring the pants off of a lot of people because that is challenge to power. Mm-hmm. That is challenges to the political norm. And that's where we see change.
Hi, it's Sean. I know I'm breaking into the conversation just for a moment. There's good reason. If you're here, it means you care about living with more purpose, more meaning, and deeper connection. And that's exactly what the YouPotential podcast is all about. When you hit that subscribe button, conversations like this, the ones that challenge you to think differently and open to new possibilities, keep showing up to you every week. And when you share this episode with someone you care, you're not just passing along a podcast. You're giving them a chance to reflect, to grow, and maybe even to reimagine what a good life can look like for them. So please take a second, subscribe, share it with a friend. Let's spread the conversations that truly matter. Now back to the show.
You've held many leadership roles, and this running also provides you with leadership. Leadership now that you're transcending into giving advice, insight to other people running. What principles around leadership, or just the way Melba holds herself when she's fighting the good fight, trying to cause good trouble, but perhaps is not getting the results you want? Are there any principles that help keep you grounded so that you can continue doing the good work?
Well, one principle that I've been really embracing is rest. And it sounds very like, oh, soft girl life. Oh my gosh. There's all these hashtags around it, right? But I learned from a good friend of mine. She always takes a summer sabbatical.
Yeah.
And she has the ability because she has her own company and all of that. But she does not do any work between, Memorial Day and Labor Day. So the entire summer. And she uses that time to enrich herself, whether it be taking courses, whether it be traveling, just giving yourself that time to rest, breathe, think about how the first half of the year went. What was good? What was bad? What could you change? What do you want to accomplish for the last half of the year? Because if you're constantly going, you don't have time to create or reflect. Yeah. And so taking that time to do it really, I think, helps my leadership because I'm coming refreshed. I'm taking the time to think about ideas that people have presented to me, and I just didn't have time to process it. And now I'm like, you know what? Somebody said something really cool to me in March. I know it's August, but maybe it's time for me to circle back.
Calling that memory now.
Right. Maybe it's time for me to circle back and, maybe try, tweak it or touch base with them or something like that. So taking those breaks, I think, are critical in terms of resetting your mindset and resetting your brain. Because, we all know you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And if you're drained, you're going to make bad decisions and you'll be missing things. So if you're noticing members of your team are struggling, you may not be taking the time to pour into them and just be like, oh, all right, maybe I got to fire them. Maybe I got to relocate them or whatever. But maybe if you're taking that break to think about it, maybe there's another way I can utilize this person. Maybe this isn't their exact skill set. So for instance, every time I take on a leadership role in an organization, so we're here in Toronto, I'm going to be sworn in as chair of the American Bar Association's Criminal Justice Section this weekend. And
in Toronto?
Yes. Well, because our conference is in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
But it's the largest voluntary attorneys association in the U.S.
You said American, so I thought...
You were like, how did... Yeah, okay. I believe we may have Canadian members too, though, but because we do a lot of cross, legal discussions and things like that.
Cheaper to get hotels here too.
And hello, Toronto. Dope city. Hello, great food. Hi.
I want to get back to this leadership thing, but I have heard rumors from Edmonton that in Canada, they only make Jamaican patties in Toronto.
I would not.
This is real. Like 3 Jamaican restaurants have told me this in Edmonton.
And I can see that. I can see that being very real because, again, there's like 3 outposts outside of Jamaica. Miami, New York, and Toronto. That's where you find the biggest Jamaican population.
Okay. So
there may be like 2 or 3 sprinkled across the rest of the country.
Yeah.
But we stay on the East Coast. Right? We want to make sure we get that direct flight from YYZ to KIN. Okay? Like Toronto to Kingston. Like that is a necessity. So yeah, that's a big thing. But in terms of whenever I take over a leadership role, I sit down with each of my board members and have a one-on-one discussion with them. And I say, okay, I understand that you have been elected to be secretary of the organization, but tell me about some of your other talents. Because, you may be good at this, but you may be good at some other things that could be really beneficial to the organization. And if I didn't ask the question, I'd never know. And the organization couldn't benefit. So that's, something. And also, do you have ideas of things that you think would, systems or ideas or programs that would make things better and improve our organization? What failures have you seen from other leaders of this organization? And no shaming and naming or whatever, but what are some minefields I should know about? Because I think it's sort of, people have called me like kind of the model of like a servant leader, and that's, I'm kind of one of those. I can lead from the back, or I can lead from the front, right? I lead from the front and lead the charge. Let's go. Or I can lead from the back and be like, y'all do this, because I want you to feel empowered to be able to do X, Y, Z, right? And you're learning the skill to be able to, again, each one teach one. You then execute in a different way in another part of your life. But to me, even though the decision may fall to me as leader, I will still seek consensus, seek input, so that way everyone feels a buy-in to what we're doing. And it's not, oh, that's Melba's thing. It's our thing. Melba's pushing it forward, but it's our thing. And we're proud to be a part of it.
As you're saying this, I'm really liking the way you're framing it. And I hear there's this term, psychological flexibility, our ability to morph into different roles, different ways of thinking. So whether you're leading that march or in the back empowering, but I hear empowered leadership, where you're looking at your people, your team, our goal, and helping see what's the best this individual can bring. And I can't help but think Mr. Bob Marley and his view of like the collective good and how can we look I, and it seems like you're bringing an I leadership to the people you run, but also other women who get to see you lead in this context. I can imagine that they're looking up to you. So I guess my question is, as I'm working through my thoughts, is what's it like to be demonstrating, modeling this I, our empowered leadership to other women who'd be looking up to you?
Well, I've always have like what I call my little ones, right? Because again, I mentioned that I don't have any biological children. So I use that to pour into the next generation of female attorneys, female activists. And I'm talking starting from high school. And so I'll take young women under my wing and be like, hey, whatever you need, don't make the mistakes I made. Ask the question. If you even have like, should I call me, text me, email me, like, you don't have to stumble if there's someone who can show you there's another way to do it, right? So to me, it's about pouring into the next generation. It's about not being petty and not being, and that can be easier said than done for some people, but be that as it may, it's just like you have to stay strong in yourself and not be easily intimidated, and know that another woman may bring a totally different skill to the table. Not everybody, has the same talent and all of that. And everybody's going to approach things in a different way. And there's no reason to be threatened by another woman just because, she does a great job at whatever. Hey, applaud her. Hey, do your thing, girl. Do it. Because you're making all of us look good, right? But when you have that, I'm in power, and no one else, I'm not going to empower anyone.
Take a seat.
Exactly. It's my turn. And maybe, if you're good, if you kiss the ring, I may let you get a crumb. No. Because then again, that mindset and that psyche perpetuates. And when that woman becomes in power, she's going to take the same tact because that's all she knew. So that's why, to me, I try to model what I want to see, and I always try to strive to be the best that I can be. And I try to empower other young women and girls to do the same. I think I've been pretty decently successful in that, because I'm so proud of, some of the women that I've seen from literally, college, law school, now running their own firms, now, doing great things, doing civil rights work. And I'm just like, oh, look at my base, get my bases go, I'm like so proud because to me, that's my legacy.
Yes.
That's what I want to leave behind. And,
you talked about the ancestors doing that to you, and here you are paying it forward.
You have to.
As you worked your way into roles, like quite predominant roles, powerful roles, like there's time, like even now, you have roles you're getting sworn in, like you have power. I'm wondering how yourself, and this is something that I think many people struggle with, how do you have this internal battle? Like sometimes we conflate power, wealth, and success with like who we are, you know, and who we want to be. So have there been times that you've had to internally wrestle with these external validations, call it power, control, or wealth, versus this, you know, your cultural roots of I and I?
I think it's that internal imposter syndrome. That's what I was looking for, imposter syndrome. There are times where you're like, am I ready for this? Am I good enough for this? 110% yes, but you still have that, oh my God, I can't mess this up. Oh my gosh, you know, this is so visible. If I don't do this well, everybody's going to see me fall flat on my face and it's going to be like the most horrible thing over. Oh my God, oh my God. You know, there'll be nights where I don't sleep because I'm like thinking about something that's coming up the next day, the next week or whatever. And, you know, I can't say that I have the perfect system, you know?
You're human.
Exactly. I'm human. I rely on, you know, I speak about my husband a lot because he's my rock in all of this. And he's been through that entire ride with me from, you know, prosecutor, just trying cases in the courtroom all the way to where I am now. So is him I bounce ideas off of, or, you know, he's my biggest cheerleader. But I also have my little, you know, crew of folks who will lift me up. And I'll be like, girl, I don't think I can do this. Girl, please, you better stop with that. No, get it together. Get it together. You know you've got this, et cetera, et cetera. You know you have us for support. Go do it. And even, you know, women and, you know, people generally, because, you know, I have mentors of you know, of different gender identities, and they're all like, we raised you better than that. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, so the battle is always there.
Yeah.
Sometimes the voice is louder than others. I think where I'm trying to be right now is just to know that it's a moment and it'll pass. That the voices won't be like, oh my God, you can't do that every day, right? They'll get quiet because you keep pushing forward. You keep doing the work. And as you start to see the results, as you start to see like, oh, okay, I planned this event. It went well. Ooh, okay. We did this lecture. Ooh, it was well received. Okay. Your confidence in that particular role starts to build, right? So that's how, you know, because I've never been one who is like, you know, my only definition is that I'm an attorney, right? Like, you know, you ask me at the top, who am I?
Yeah.
Right? I am all these things.
All these things, yeah.
And not one of those roles particularly, like, yeah, being an attorney is my work. That's what I do. But that's not who I am. And some people, that is their entire identity, which is why when they retire, they don't know what to do with themselves, right? But by having all these different interests and different things that I'm involved in, I feel like I have the ability to identify in so many different ways that if you took one away, it wouldn't be like, oh, that's the end of Melba, right? Like, oh, okay, we've taken away, you know, education. All right, well, I'll practice law. Yeah. Or, okay, we've taken away advocacy. Well, you could never take away advocacy, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, as things change and again evolve and understanding the chapter you're in your life and appreciating it for what it is and knowing, okay, we're evolving into a different direction now. Maybe some things have to be left behind. It may hurt, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The next chapter may be even more amazing, and it usually is. So that's kind of how I think about it, you know? And money doesn't really enter into it just from the standpoint like, yeah, you got to pay your bills. Hello. But I was kind of like, I don't know. I think about what's love got to do with it. The movie, you know, told the story of Tina Turner and Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner. And there's this one scene where, you know, Tina and Ike were in the courtroom. Like she's getting divorced after he'd been abusing her for years.
Yeah.
She didn't want, and the judge is like, well, what do you want? Money. She's like, all I want is my name. All I want is my name, because she knew she could make money off of her name because she had the talent and the belief in herself. So all I want is my name. I know that no matter what, I'll be able to survive. I'll be able to eat. I have the ability to do so. And, you know, things keep escalating in a good way and, you know, whatever. But it's never been about chasing dollars. Because when you chase the dollars, it generally doesn't go well. But if you are chasing an ideal, if you're chasing goals, if you are chasing impact, all these other things work themselves out. Within reason, right?
I like that. Like you said, you need money to pay your bills, but your word on ideals, if I'm chasing or pursuing or engulfed or embedded in ideals for especially the collective good of where this is your story, the other stuff does take care of itself. And you talk about an enduring sense of satisfaction at the end of life. You chase money that
you can't take it with you.
You can't even see it now.
Exactly.
What's on it?
Right. It's Bitcoin, like whatever. It's, but because at the end of the day, I always think about, and not that I'm like fatalistic or anything, but I always think about when, I'm in my 80s, 90s, Lord willing, and I'm sitting in the rocking chair with, on my front porch or whatever, and, with my cup of tea. Where do I want to be? What do I want to say that I've done with my life?
So, Melba, a question, and we're not finished, but a question that I asked everyone on this podcast and 300 on the previous one, that very question is like, so I'm going to ask you now. Let's imagine you were at that end of life. I actually say on a chair, sitting on a front porch. You're at end of life. Tomorrow, life's over. But you're still cognitively able to think. You're sitting on this front porch, looking out at a view that gives you complete peace, ease, and contentment.
That'd be a beach.
That'd be a beach. Miami Beach or Jamaican?
Jamaican Beach.
Jamaican. You bring out a notebook and you decide to write a letter about what you learned was key to living a meaningful life. What would be a message in that letter?
Love. Love of self. Love of family. Love of community, love of others, and that agape love, and not necessarily the romantic, like whatever.
Yeah.
But first of all, if you don't love yourself, it's a wrap. Ain't nothing happening.
Your vision of leadership, all of that doesn't matter if you don't love yourself.
Exactly, and you're never going to be able to succeed because that lack of self-love will cripple you to the point that you can't recognize an amazing opportunity.
You're chasing power, things that are not going to be like actually satisfaction.
Exactly. So love of that, love of your family. And when I say that, it's not just like, oh, yay, my little niece, that's amazing too.
Yeah.
But how have you poured into your family? How have you supported your family? And again, I don't necessarily mean financially. I mean in terms of making sure that if, one of the young people in your family wants to go to college and you've gone to college, you give them advice, if there's not a wide enough guy, you give them books or whatever the case may be, you help them along their way, or you teach them how to fix their car or something like that so they have a life skill that they can move forward with. Whatever your wheelhouse is, you've poured into your family and that you've poured into your community. What have you done to help your community? Whether it be, again, working at, one of the polling stations during an election, or, reading up on a particular issue and educating a couple people in your community around, access to reproductive health or something like that. Volunteering at an animal shelter, whatever it is that's your passion. You've poured into your community. And, at the end of the day, it's about the legacy you want to leave. Like what do you want people to say at your eulogy? What do you want people to say at your funeral? Do they want to, they're like, well, she's all right. Well, here's some flowers, I guess, or you think about, are people going to stand up and say, Melba helped me in this way. Melba taught me this. Or Melba inspired me to do that. Like that's.
Are those what you'd like to hear?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the great beyond. Yeah. But, to me, my legacy is if I can look around and see the positive impact I've had on people in communities, then I know my work here is done.
Yeah.
Which is no time anytime soon.
I hope not.
Lord willing. I want to be very clear on this, right?
You're not ready for your song to be over.
No, not by a long shot.
We're talking about this like a higher sense of meaning driven by, I can hear a purpose to advocate for these grassroots communities, these individuals within the communities that you've done. when you look at a life well lived, and you've worked with a lot of communities, a lot of individuals like that woman you described who has abuse, but there's financial support, so it's a very messy, like, why don't you just leave? Well, you don't understand my perspective. Is this level of well-being and ability to live a good life accessible to some of these clients that you've worked with? You know, like, is this just the higher, or like, can we still have this? I have my issue. Is it attainable? Or are we so privileged to be able to talk about that?
I think it's attainable. It's just the vision looks different for everyone else.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? It's a very individual self-attainment. For some people, just maybe, listen, I got me a little one-bedroom apartment or a studio. It's mine. Nobody's working my nerves. It's just me and my child, me and my children, whatever. And I'm able to pay the bills. I'm able to go to work. And, you know, maybe I'm not going on a fancy vacation. Maybe it just means I'm going to the park for a cookout with friends on the weekend. And or once a year, it's a family reunion, and that's it. Okay. You know, the thing is, I think where we go wrong is that we impose what we think an ideal looks like, on life looks like on other people. And that's not their ideal, right? Like, listen, my crazy ideal would be hanging out on the Riviera. Is that realistic right now? No. But I would never impose that on someone who's living, in an underprivileged background and be like, you should be working towards that. No, because then that gets you into the mindset of, oh, I got to get quick, fast, easy money to be able to get there rather than work, in what I'm able to do and what I'm passionate about, or whatever employment I'm able to get. You can't chase that. Chase what's attainable to you and what's going to bring you peace and happiness.
Someone that I respect did some research on this idea of this money by happiness, and he went to very poor areas of India, Bangladesh, Greenland, and the United States. He's American. And it was a quick assessment about, like, what did you do yesterday? And so it's just a very quick assessment. And overall, what he came back is, like, despite the American nation is a lot, like, by living in America or another wealthy country, you automatically rise your access to resources. Right. While there's certain issues, within that, but just by comparatively speaking. Yet what they determined is the individuals in India, Iceland, and Bangladesh, Greenland, had more connection the day before, more meaning, whether that was from religious rituals, whether that was singing, etc., than the population in America. And it just makes me think, as we opened up with Jamaica, or, I've certainly privileged to be able to go around the world to very, very interesting countries, some with very little, like, national money. But, when you don't have as much means, you seem to be able to put on a Bob Marley song or whatever it is, socialize. And I'm not discounting that there's difficulties and there's challenges.
Of course.
But it seems like the more resources we get, the more problems we just create.
And it was interesting because there's this one, I do spend a lot of time on social media, and there was this.
What are you, the deep? What's your?
The Resident Legal Diva, yes. Resident Legal Diva. You can find me on YouTube and all social platforms. But I was listening to one young lady, an influencer out of Jamaica, and she was talking about, like, listen, where we are, we can't just get up and go to the cinema because there's no cinema nearby, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can't run to the grocery store and get whatever because the closest grocery store is, because she lived more in a rural area.
Yeah.
She's like, our entertainment is nature. Our entertainment is each other.
Yeah.
So it's what entertainment can you come up with? Games, you may not have a TV in your house, or, you may have, but again, it's hot or whatever. So your idea of fun is going down to the river with your family and hanging out and having a barbecue, or hanging out on the street corner, stereos blasting, and everybody's, chatting and doing a little dance. And maybe you got your Bob Ray and nephew and you're doing your thing, what? Not like I know anything about that. But, but it's the kind of thing where you find joy in what you have. And the kids are running around and they may be barefoot, but you know what? They're happy and they're playing games and they're, they don't have a PlayStation. They're not over here gaming with a huge headset and whatnot.
The internet is too slow to game.
They don't have internet.
Yeah.
Right? So their focus is family connection, community connection, the connections that come from school, and they enjoy it. And of course, again, you have your struggles.
Yeah.
Paying the bills is hard, whether you're in the U.S. and Jamaica and UK and Canada. Listen, everybody got to struggle with their bills, right? One way or the other. But they find the joy in the simple things in life. And I think that's why it resonates so much when you see, what we call Blaxit in the U.S., where a lot of African Americans are leaving to go to other countries and live, whether it be the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, other folks in the U.S. because of politics or whatever want to leave. But then when they get there, they're like, wow, I'm eating fresh fruit. I'm walking and vegetables. I'm walking more. I know my neighbors. My blood sugar's gone down. My cholesterol's gone down. My stress level's gone down. Because what? You're starting to be one with nature. You're living in a more natural state. You're not stressed out and pressure and this and that. Now, doesn't mean you're not working and you still don't have responsibilities. But life is a little slower, a little calmer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it gives you the opportunity to create, to think, to relax, and not be in that rat race that brings us to an early grave.
We envision retirement of this.
Right,
it's just
right.
You work your whole life, and then I'm going to go just eat fresh fruit and sit on the beach. And
can you make it there, though?
Can you make it? I know, it's just, hey. We recently went camping, and I live in the city in Canada, and we love camping, but it's the nature, and it was pouring rain, and there's trailers have TVs in them now, and sometimes there's an urge, and my kids are 9 and 6, and they're like, yeah, we want to watch TV. I'm like, you know what? When I was a kid and we went camping, it was just no electronics, so I'm like pretty rigid on this.
Right.
And it was raining one day, and it was no electronics. So our kids went into the woods. Mm-hmm. This might sound reckless, but they started a fire. There was a 14-year-old watching them.
Okay.
Where last year there was a massive.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
It was supervised, but the creative play they had, they built a hole in the ground. Mm-hmm. They put rocks, clay around it. And they found some metal bars, I don't know where, put it across the hole, put a rock on top, and they wanted to cook food on it. It was 6-hour ordeal.
Oh my God.
In the rain, but it was covered under the canopy of the tree that we didn't burn down, so that's a good thing. But
huge positive.
It was so wonderful to see our kids play in nature and not just distract them when it could have been it's rain. Throw a movie on.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you find your own entertainment. It's not impossible, but I think a lot of us are afraid to be alone with our own thoughts and afraid to not have that distraction of the phone, of the TV, and again, that's the society we're in now, but that's why people are talking about digital detoxes and things like that, because again, you need to have that time to sit with yourself and sit with the people around you. When you go to dinner and everybody's like this on their phone, did y'all really have dinner or no? Right? There was no real...
Check this out.
Exactly. Versus y'all put your phones either in your pocket or keep them in a basket or something, and you actually interact and talk. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten away from that. It's become a lost art. And so finding that grounding within your own thoughts, whether it be through nature or just meditation or taking a walk or whatever it is, that is so healthy for our bodies, our souls, and our minds. And we need to do more of it. And, you don't get there overnight. It's bit by bit. It was a learned behavior.
Yeah.
But 30 days is a habit. So, you just keep pushing away bit by bit.
Are there things that you do to help you get to that grounding space where you can start to create, start to think? You talked about your friend who takes that sabbatical in the summertime. You mentioned meditation. I ask this because I'm I know these things, but there's the knowing and doing that's fundamentally different. And I'm at a time where I'm like, I need to get in that higher order thinking, whether that's sabbatical, whether that's proper meditation, not just being like, I heard it's to meditate. Let's do this checklist.
Exactly.
So yeah, are there things that help you get to that higher order level thinking or space and time in life?
Yeah. So like my friend taught me, I do a summer sabbatical, but then
You do it too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just a friend.
Oh yeah, she taught me because she did
you
it.
do it.
Yes, I started doing it from her, and I'm like, it's bit by bit. I'm like, I can't like not work at all, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to scale back, speaking engagements. I'm going to scale back everything else and just focus on the bare minimum that I need to do for the summer so that I can have that space to create. So I do that in the summer, and I also do that in the winter. So from Memorial Day, which is the end of May, until Labor Day, which is the beginning of September, that's one sabbatical. My winter sabbatical is Thanksgiving until Dr. Martin Luther King Day in like the second or third week in January. And
wow.
I take, because nobody's doing anything during the holidays anyway. You're at work, but you're over here. Okay, when's the holiday party? When's this? So I might as well take that time anyway. And so I use that time to think, strategize, analyze the first half of the year. How far did I get with my goals? What can I push and do for the last quarter of the year? What do I want my new year to look like? What's attainable? Not resolutions, but just goals, and kind of work towards that. So I do that. I try to do a digital detox every weekend. So I try, like on Sundays at least, leave my phone upstairs, completely away, and just focus on friends, family, whatever the case may be. Even during the weekdays, I try by 5, 6 o'clock, when the workday is over, leave my phone upstairs and just, spend quality time with my husband or with friends or whatever. Because again, when you have your phone, it's too easy so that when you're able to detach for that little while and be with the people you love and the people that ground you, you'd be surprised how you go into bed and all of a sudden ideas just pop. Because it's not like literally in the middle of meditation something may come. It may, but it's more because you're in a rested state. Your brain is able to work and generate things versus you're go, 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 go. You're thinking about the next thing and not taking a pause. So those are the things that I do to kind of keep me grounded. And of course, like I mentioned, if things get really stressful, I go down the rabbit hole of animal videos and dance videos. But because I love watching animal videos, especially species that don't, like if you see like a cat taking a ride on a horse or that kind of thing. And I know it sounds weird, but it's just sort of like if two completely different animal species can get along, there is hope for humans. Yeah. Right? Like, because we're more, we're allegedly more intelligent in all of this, right? And we have rational thinking and this and that. But if you look at the purity of just two animals playing, a dog and a deer playing tag, basically, like that kind of beauty reminds you that there's good in the world, number one. And number two, that there is hope for humanity. And the dancing's just cool. That dancing's just cool.
It is. It is. Well, Melba, I really appreciate this conversation. I asked you my final question already, but I can't help but ask this other one. You talked about how your ancestors poured this into you. This I wouldn't say they imposed responsibility. They poured the option for you to take this responsibility, which you've taken and run with. If your ancestors were talking to you during one of your meditations, what do you think they would say after you've really gone into your story that be like, Melba, I'm proud of you for this?
They'll make me emotional. I would hope they say, you're done good, but you're not done yet. Because let me tell you, Caribbean people are not ones to let you rest on your laurels, right? They'd be like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, so what are you doing tomorrow? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they don't let you, they want to keep pushing you.
You're on the right path, keep going.
Keep going, right? Keep going and don't stop.
The work's not done.
Exactly. And that's, that to me is that push, because I know the work isn't done. And like, they remind me, I don't need them to remind me, but I know the work's not done. So all I want to know, y'all still back there? Y'all still got me? Yeah. Good, because I'm a little tired right now. And, in those moments, they're like, no, you got to get back up. because too many people died in sacrifice for you to be here. And by just sitting here and chilling, to me, is a disrespect to the blood that was shed. So to me, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm having a moment, or I'm upset or I'm stressed or whatever. But, if I can center myself and get to that point and just know, like, people have overcome so much more than what I'm stressing about in this moment.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, dust yourself off. Yeah, they keep it moving, like, so, yeah.
It comes full circle. We opened up with Bob Marley, and like you said, you're not going to just sit here and chill.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? To the naive mind, sometimes Bob Marley comes across as the guy who just chilled in the hammock. But
he did, but that wasn't all he did.
That is, that's a sabbatical. But it sounds like some deep, hard work, and I'm glad you're continuing on that legacy. And I think the ancestors would be proud. But yeah, keep going.
Keep going. Keep going. To quote Luke Cage, because I'm all over the place, right, in terms of I watch, but
love it.
Always forward, never backwards.
Well, Melba, thank you so much. For listeners who want to know your social media presence or just your work in general, where would you point them to online if there's a landing spot?
Absolutely. So I would point everyone to my YouTube, Resident Legal Diva, where you can find videos of me giving legal commentary, talking about different current events.
PDD updates.
Oh my gosh, yeah. PDD updates. Sentencing's coming up in October. If you guys want to know what's happening and all the foolishness, trust me, I got you. I'm your girl. I got you. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And of course, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, just about everywhere except for X. I don't do apartheid Ken.
How come?
I do not mess with apartheid Ken. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot there.
I know. I'm like, I'm just going to leave it right there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the YouPotential podcast. What struck me the most in this conversation with Melba is how she ties leadership to love. Not just love for herself, but this love for family, for community, and humanity. Really, when you think about it, something that Bob Marley and his music really demonstrated. It reminded me that how real power isn't just about titles and money. It's how we show up and who we lift up during important times. My question this week is, where in your life can you use your voice, your values, and your vision to create real change that lasts? Like Bob Marley's movement that he's created over the years. Where can you create that type of change using your voice? Because sometimes it's not the answers we learn from, but the questions. Thank you for tuning in this week to the YouPotential podcast. If you are enjoying these conversations, if you're still listening, perhaps that means you are, please subscribe to the show on YouTube and find us on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and Apple. Leave a review, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Until next week, have a great one.